today's video, I'm going to be walking you through the music video shoot for Tell Me How It Feels by Cardinal, which shot straight to #1 in the iTunes rock chart. But before we get into that, I want to take you right back to the beginning and tell you how I got into filming music videos in the first place. And spoiler alert, it's because of Chris. I first met Chris Buck at the University of South Wales, where we were both studying music. For most of my younger life, I had aspirations of being a professional guitarist. I'd studied performing arts at school and went on to do a 2-year course at college, and then chose to continue my passion at university, ready for entering the super competitive world of music. On my first day, my very first day at uni, I walked into a room with an 18-year-old Chris Buck who was just sat on a chair playing the most incredible music I'd ever heard in my life. I knew at that moment, on the first morning of my first day of a 3-year course, that I was never gonna be in the same league as him, and I might as well give up right there and then. Nevertheless, I stuck with the course and made good friends with Chris, who ended up leaving after the first year after being offered some amazing opportunities in the real world of music. We kept in contact, and as I was only living 15 minutes away from him, we saw each other every now and again, with him telling me stories like, "Oh yeah, I played with Slash last weekend in front of an audience of 10,000 people." Stories like this were a regular occurrence with Chris, and I knew that he was not only destined for great things, but he was already doing them. In my 3rd year of uni, I developed RSI in my wrists, which meant playing the guitar was very painful, and I knew my future in music was coming to an end, but I desperately wanted to leave with a degree under my arm. I talked to the tutors, and they suggested I complete the course by studying the correlation between music and video. So I went and bought myself a Canon T2i, which was all I could afford at the time. It's like the grey import version of the Canon 550D. And I was messing around with it, learning how to use it, when Chris rang me out of the blue and said, "Hey, you've got a decent camera, right? Fancy shooting a music video?" I'd been dabbling with video, but I wasn't very confident yet, but something I learned very early on in my career is you grab opportunities with both hands. He came to my flat in Cardiff Bay, and with the limited knowledge, I spent all night filming Chris's version of "Miss You" by the Rolling Stones. Those of you who know Chris well know that he's not the most patient of people. So after hours and hours of filming, he was quite insistent that we then stay up all night and edit it. The only computer I had at the time was an 11-inch MacBook Air with a 64GB hard drive. We had shot well over 64 gigabytes of footage, so it was going to be a real slog. But we got there in the end, and the video has now amassed over 400,000 views on YouTube. So that's where the story began, and we've shot many projects together since. When Chris, Tom, Adam and Sam contacted me to shoot a couple of videos for their brand new band Cardinal, of course, I leapt at the chance. Chris had seen this video and said he really liked how simple it was, he liked the one-take aspect of the video and the red sight behind them. From our many conversations, I understood that he wanted something simple yet impactful, and they were very keen to do the whole video in one take. This is the moment my back began to hurt. So we started looking for someone with a video wall. We wanted something about 3 meters high and 6 to 8 meters wide, so the whole band could be silhouetted if needed. We'd worked with a company called Ratio Studios just a month before with Chris's other band, Buck and Evans, so we contacted them because we knew they had some pretty special kit. They just moved to an enormous new space and had a custom-built video wall, which might just do the job. Chris headed over to take a look and sent me a few photos, and although it definitely looked possible, I wanted to see it for myself. I headed down and had a conversation with the guys there, and they explained that the walls in this photo were actually lots of individual panels that could be built in pretty much any configuration we could think of. I said, right, I want the biggest video wall you can create, and I want it as bright as it'll go. They just nodded and said, yeah, that should be fine. So that was that. We had a date for the shoot and I started working on the video that was going to be shown on the wall. We had a Zoom meeting to discuss what was actually going to be shown on the wall, and we're all in agreement that it should be used more as a lighting fixture than anything else. And I think this worked really nicely in the final product. We turned up about lunchtime on the day of the shoot and the video wall was still being erected. It's a massive job to construct something as big as we wanted, and it took a while to get it just right. But the first time we turned it on with the band stood in front of it, we all knew this was going to look absolutely epic. Let's take a brief moment to talk about the kit that I filmed it on. I knew this was not going to be a one take and you're done kind of deal. We had a rough plan, but when something is filmed in one take, it usually takes quite a few goes for everything to align. With this in mind, I wanted something light and reliable. I opted to go for my Sony a6300 as the autofocus is just out of this world, and coupled with the Sigma 16mm 1.4, it's an absolute force to be reckoned with. It's actually the camera and lens I'm using right now to record this. I've used this combo for the past 5 years and it never ceases to amaze me at how awesome the footage that comes out of it looks. I've dabbled with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and 6K, as well as full-frame Sony mirrorless cameras, but I have such confidence in this particular setup that I just had to go with it. I also use the Zion Crane 2, which isn't my first choice of gimbal, but my Ronin SC had died literally the day before the shoot, so I worked with what I had, and it's a really steady, reliable gimbal. The only other piece of kit that I used was a tilter matte box just to reduce any undesirable light leaks and flares. This setup was light enough that I could manage take after take of a 4-minute track, but powerful enough to still make the video as impactful as possible. Lighting was probably the biggest struggle that we faced with this shoot. The back was so very bright that we couldn't get enough light front of house to light the band when needed, so we would shoot a take and then turn the video wall down a little bit and repeat until we were happy. We started with the wall on 100% brightness, and no joke, it was like the sun was behind them, and after 4 or 5 takes we settled on about 50%, which gave us the optimal balance between back and front lighting. Once everyone was ready, we began the actual shoot. It's amazing how much time setting everything up actually took, and as I said, we got there just after midday and we didn't actually go for a proper take until gone 5 PM, but we needed to make sure everything was spot on so that when it came to doing the important takes, we could just make sure the camera movement and the band knew where to be at what time. It took about 10 takes to get the video which you're now watching, and although the previous takes were good, there was always something that wasn't quite right. One moment that comes to mind is on one take after Chris's guitar solo, I got so close to the headstock of his guitar when he was walking away that I hadn't left myself enough room. So I had to duck behind Atem on the drums, squeezing through the tightest of spaces, which ultimately ruined the take. The important thing to remember with a one-take video shoot is that some takes the band performed amazingly well, but I messed something up, or vice versa. You just have to keep going until both parties are happy with their performance. That is on my part, not on their part. They are actually performing. The 10th take, everything just fell into place. It was like everything up to that point had been a warm-up for us all, and we were finally all in sync with each other. One of my favourite moments, which we deliberated for a while over, is when all the lights go out and Tom Hollister is stood on his own about to go into the second chorus.
The better system for ourselves to get on top and stop this bleeding, hoping and needing, stop pushing back. Tell me how it feels, baby.
Seeing that take for the first time through my camera screen, I was floored. I knew that was the one.
Tell me how it feels, baby. Oh, because I don't know.
Chris's guitar solos are always a joy to film, but this one in particular felt amazing. Getting that close to the neck felt like I was really in the moment with him, and hopefully that's how the audience feels as well. So there you go, a slightly different video to usual, but I wanted to share everything that went into this one-of-a-kind video. If you enjoyed it, please let me know what you think in the comments section below, and I will do the same kind of thing for their latest single, Jump In, which is being released tomorrow. Watching all of these guys grow into the incredible musicians they are firsthand has been such a privilege, and I wish them all the success in the world, and thank you for having me along for the ride. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again really soon.